the claim is exceeds 20 lakhs and is up to 1 crore, then the state commission may be approached for resolving the dispute. And in case it's above 1 crore, the claim is above 1 crore, then the National Commission, usually that case is filed with the National Commission. Moreover, if a consumer is not satisfied with the dispute resolution, which is made by the district court, district forum, then the consumer can appeal at a higher forum, that is the state commission. And in case if the consumer is not satisfied with the decree that is given by the state commission, then the consumer can appeal at the National Commission. And in case the National Commission does not give appropriate judgment according to the loss or which the consumer has borne, then the consumer can approach the Supreme Court. Now, who is a consumer? Any person who buys goods or avails services for consideration. That is, consideration is money, naturally the price that is paid for buying the goods or availing the services. Consideration may be fully paid, partially paid, fully promised to be paid, or partially promised to be paid. So whether it's sale or an agreement to sell, whether the price has been paid fully or partially, whether it is to be paid at a future date or fully or partially to be paid at a future date and partially in advance it has been paid. So any person who buys the goods or avails the services is a consumer. Anybody who uses the goods or services with the consent of the consumer would also be a consumer. Like, for example, the family members of the person who buys the goods, they are also consumers, whether they consume food products or medicines or any other such product or use certain equipment, they are also consumers. Then legal here of the consumer in case of the death of the consumer. So they are legal here, they would inherit that equipment or those products, and they would also be the consumer. It does not include any person who buys goods for resale on commercial purposes and services for commercial purposes. So any company usually, or any middle person or any retailer or any trader who buys the goods or extends that service to the final consumers would not be a consumer. It's only the consumer who avails of those services at the last, or the goods are consumed by the final consumer. Or in case of trading, the retailers, they are not the consumers, or the traders, they are not the consumers. However, they buy those products from the wholesalers or directly from the company. They would not be the consumers. It's only the final user of that particular product who would be the consumer. However, any person who buys goods for commercial use, but exclusively for his livelihood, by means of self-employment is a consumer. So for commercial use, that means for earning some income, if a person buys certain products, then he would be a consumer. And like, for example, in case of employment generation, whether it's an auto that is purchased by particular a person who runs that auto, or an photostat machine which is bought by a person who runs a small outlet where he makes multiple copies for the students. He would also be a consumer because he makes use of that particular product. So, and for earning a livelihood, he's not, although he's put that machine for commercial use, but he's not reselling that machine. He's not, so he would also be the consumer. Then rights of consumers. The rights are to be protected under this Consumer Protection Act. So rights are to be protected, and first is the right to safety. Every consumer has a right to safety. Any spurious product or any defective product or any product that does not meet the safety those requirements, or they would be harmful for the product, or any food product if it exceeds that shelf life limit would be harmful for that consumer. So every consumer has a right to safety, and it's the obligation of the traders or the company to provide such products or services which do not harm the consumers, the health of the consumers or the safety of the consumers. Even the services, for example, an airline naturally has to operate in such a way that all the aircrafts, they are well maintained, and the consumers, they do not face any problem, or there's no danger in for the consumers while they are traveling by air. Second is right to be informed. So consumers, they have a right to be informed. Number one, about the product or service. They have a right to be informed about the ingredients that are used in the products. For example, in food products or pharmaceutical products, it's mandatory for the companies to disclose the ingredients. And then the date of manufacture, the date of expiry. So all that information has to be put on the products. And then while providing services, all precautions that are required to be adopted, they also have to be part of the information that is provided to the consumers. Then right to choose. Now this happens in case of market imperfections. So the government has to ensure that there is enough and free competition in the marketplace where the companies do not exploit the interests of the consumers, or the big players in the market, they do not have any effect on the new entrants or small companies. And everyone or every company has the right to operate in a free environment where the company can provide better quality service and products, and there has to be free competition and fair competition in the market. So the consumers would have the right to choose the best of the products at whatever prices they opt for. For example, the lowest price and some better products at lower prices. So naturally, when there's enough competition in the market, then it helps the consumers in getting a larger variety of substitute products at competitive prices. For those consumers who seek to buy high quality and premium products, perhaps price is not a deciding factor for them. Companies, they charge premium prices for those products. But for general public, naturally, they have the right to choose those premium products. But for general consumers, naturally, the better quality products available at lower prices. So when there's enough competition, stiff competition in the market, then that leads to such type of competition where companies, they lower down the cost of production and they price their products at competitive rates. And also, in order to remain in the market, they have to supply better quality products and services to the consumers. Then right to be heard. Right to be heard means that every consumer, in case of any, any defect in the product or deficiency in the services, has the right to sue a particular trader or a company and seek compensation. Then right to seek redressal. Redressal, whether there need to be a repair in the product which has been supplied by a particular trader or a company, whether the replacement of that product would be required, or whether refund of that particular product is required. So whether it's repair, replacement, or refund, naturally, when the product is not, it's not possible to repair that product, then the company should replace or refund the money that is paid as a price for that particular product. Or if there is deficiency in the services, then the company needs to reimburse. So any inconvenience caused to the consumers in case of the provision of services, or any defect that appears later on in the product, or is a latent defect and comes to light to the consumer after he makes use of that particular product, the company needs to repair that product or replace that product or refund in case it's not able to repair or replace. So this right to seek redressal, once the consumer approaches the district forum or the state commission or the national commission, quick redressal of his grievance should be possible. Then right to consumer education. Now, every consumer, the government has to provide or ensure that the consumers, they are educated about their rights, and the concerned ministry which related to this consumer protection provides that information to the general public. So every consumer should have information, knowledge about his rights, and then only he can take a step to seek redressal. Now, what is a complaint? Complaint means any allegation in writing made by complainant that an unfair trade practice or a restrictive trade practice has been adopted by any trader or service provider. Now, whether it's an unfair trade practice or a restrictive trade practice, we'll take up in detail these services, these practices in another topic. Just to give you an idea that an unfair trade practice is a practice where misleading, for example, information is provided by the company. For example, an advertisement that states that a particular product or service is much superior than that provided by its competitors, or it has all those, special qualities which a particular product does not have. There's emphasis on those properties. So misleading or false advertising of the qualities of a particular product, that is an unfair trade practice. Unfair trade practice is also related to providing free gifts to the consumers, or say certain those draws that are made by companies for the consumers, that they'll get these prizes. So such type of unfair trade practices, they are to be curbed, and sometimes the company, it does not provide quality products, but advertises that its products have such and such value and such and such qualities. So those are the unfair trade practices. Then a restrictive trade practice is where competition is restricted, where the supply is restricted, where suppose a particular company gives its in its distribution system, it has only few wholesalers in a particular geographical area who enjoy a monopoly in providing those goods or those services. Such type of restrictive trade practices, they sometimes they are harmful, because those traders who have a monopoly in supplying certain products and services, they exploit the consumers by charging higher prices, or sometimes there are deficiencies in the services which are provided by these companies or these distributors. The goods bought by him or agreed to be bought by him suffer from one or more defects. So when a product which is bought by a consumer, it has some defect, then the consumer can approach the district forum or the state commission or national commission for that matter. The services hired or availed of or agreed to be hired or availed of by him suffer from deficiency in any respect. So any type of such service that is either hired or availed or is to be availed by a particular consumer, if it suffers from any deficiency, whether it relates to how the private schools they operate, whether how airlines they operate, so any such type of service which has any deficiency, the complaint can be filed against the service provider. A trader or service provider, as the case may be, has charged for goods or for services mentioned in the complaint a price in excess of the price that is fixed by or under any law for the time being in force. So if the government institutes a particular restriction or a particular ceiling on the price of certain essential products or services, then any such price that is over that ceiling price for such type of products or for such services, the complaint can be made. Like, for example, for certain essential drugs that are meant particularly for very those life-saving, the life-threatening diseases like cancer or for other ailments, they are produced by multinational companies, and they are protected by patents. And usually, a drug that is protected by patents, there's a patent life for those drugs. Only that particular company who has invented that drug and has a patent in his name is allowed to sell that or market that drug in the marketplace. Now, usually companies, these patented drugs, they are priced almost 10 times higher than the generic drugs. So in many countries, there are certain ceiling prices. The government has made those laws to ensure that there is easy affordability and availability of those essential drugs for the general consumers, for the low those income groups in the. So such type of laws, like for example in India we have the Drug Prices Control Order, and under that Drug Prices Control Order there are a list of those drugs and the maximum price which the retailers and dealers can charge from the consumers. So if a particular dealer charges a higher price than that is fixed under the Drug Prices Control Order, suppose there is scarcity of certain medicines, and that has been a case in the past 1 year when certain drugs for the COVID, they were not freely available, and certain traders, they charged a very high price for those drugs. So for such type of complaints, complaints can be made against those traders or those companies that charge a higher price. Then B, the price which is displayed on the goods or any package containing such goods. Now there's a price that is to be fixed by the company, a maximum price inclusive of all the taxes that have been paid by the company. So that maximum price that is written on the label of a particular product, if a company charges a higher price than that, then whatever is displayed on the label of the product and the company is charging, or a retailer is charging a higher price or has charged a higher price when there is sufficient demand for that particular product, and certain dealers, they charge a higher price because of the unavailability of certain essential medicines. So in that case, the consumer can file a complaint. Now, the price that is displayed on the price list exhibited by the company or under any law for the time being enforced. So for any service or for any product, if the price that is charged by the company, which may be a bit higher than that exhibited in the price list of that company. So if the price is charged, if the price that is charged is higher than that price that is exhibited in the price list, then the consumer can go to the appropriate forum. And last, the price agreed between the parties. So in case of a contract where the dealer, the buyer and the sellers, they agree to a particular price, and the price may not be just the price of the product. It may be, it may include the price related to, the costs related to transportation or handling costs, or sometimes even the insurance, inland insurance costs when goods arrive by trucks or other means of transportation. So whatever price is agreed between the two parties, and the seller then, after whatever has been agreed, later on at the time of delivery of the products, charges a higher price, and that the buyer can go to the consumer forum. Then goods which will be hazardous to life and safety when used are being offered for sale to the public. So those goods which are hazardous to life and safety, if they are offered for sale to the public, then in contravention of any standards relating to safety of such goods as required to be complied with by or under any law for the time being in force. So any such goods, suppose on an electrical appliance, suppose the ISI mark should be there. So if any standards are to be adopted by the company and it has not complied with, so the consumer can go to the appropriate forum for redressal, because there are safety standards for different types of products, whether it's a food product or pharmaceutical product or electrical appliances. So the consumers in such cases where those standards have not been adopted can go to the appropriate forum. If the trader could have known with due diligence that the goods so offered are unsafe to the public. For example, suppose food products which although are manufactured by the company, and the date of manufacturing, date of expiry, the shelf life is written there on the package. But then the raw material that has been incorporated or used by in the manufacturing process had been stale or unsafe for consumption. So if the trader could have known with due diligence that the goods so offered are unsafe to the public, then in that case, the consumer can file the complaint. Or if suppose taste makers, for example, monosodium glutamate, has been used in excess of the recommended the recommended quantity in parts per million. If it has been used in excess of that, then the consumer can go to the appropriate forum, and the forum will direct the necessary laboratories to find out whether what is the percentage or parts per million, that quantity that has been used by the company. Then service which are hazardous or likely to be hazardous to the life and safety of the public when used are being offered by the service provider, which such person could have known with due diligence to be injurious to life and safety. Suppose there is an airline that's operating certain aircrafts, and the airline knows that the door of one of the planes is defective, and it may open up in midair. So such type of services which are hazardous, and the provider knows with due diligence that some mishap may occur, such type of services which are hazardous, complaint can be filed by the consumers. Now, complaint may be filed by the consumer to whom the goods are sold or services are provided. Then any recognized consumer association. So any recognized consumer association can file a complaint with the appropriate forum for redressal. any one or more consumers with the same interest, whether it is a service that is provided to the consumers or a product. So any one or more consumers with the same interest, they can file a joint complaint with the appropriate forum, and the central government or the state government on behalf of the general public can also file a complaint against a particular provider of services or products in the code of law. The complaint should contain the following information. Now, what information need to be given while filing the complaint? The name, description, and address of the complainant. That the consumer or the complainant, his name, his description, his address, description of the product or service, and the address of that complainant. So description relating to that particular product or deficiency or the defect in the product, and the address of the complaint. The name, description, and address of the opposite parties. So the opposite parties and the complete address of the opposite parties, that is the companies or the traders who are providing the products or services. The facts relating to the complaint, that means the facts relating to the deficiency in the services or the defects in the products. The documents, if any, in support of the allegations contained in the complaint. For example, the price lists, or if the price is charged very high, or in case of any other defect in the products or services, the consumer invoice or the bill or any cash receipt. So the supporting documents, they have to be provided along with the complaint. The relief which the complainant is seeking, whether the complainant is seeking to get a refund or a replacement, so whatever, or if any health hazard has come up, then the compensation. So rest of the slides we'll take up inshallah tomorrow. There's less than a minute left, and we'll close up this session.
Thank you, sir.
Most welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Most welcome.